Max Verstappen has been driving his races under the Dutch flag now for many a year. However, it could have also been the case that after a Verstappen victory, we would have heard the Belgian national anthem and not the Dutch one blaring out while he stood on the podium. So why did Verstappen choose to drive for the Netherlands instead of Belgium? We'll let you know in this GPFans Special in just a moment, but before we go any further, just a reminder to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything we produce here at GPFans. But now let's get into why Verstappen is a Dutchman and not a Belgian. Verstappen was born on September the 30th, 1997. That already makes many of us feel very old indeed. Now that didn't happen in the Netherlands, but in the Belgian city of Hasselt that has almost 80,000 inhabitants and is just across the border from the Netherlands near Limburg. Now Verstappen is the son of Dutchman Jos Verstappen, a former Formula 1 driver, and Belgian Sophie Kumpen, also a successful and talented racing driver. So it seemed almost destiny that young Max would have the required racing talent running through his veins. Passed as a Belgian. His talent came to the fore at the age of 7, when the youngster got into a kart for the first time. Verstappen then started his career behind the wheel at Karting Genk in Belgium. There he almost immediately won the title in the mini class. He then won several more titles across Holland's southern border, and it was clear the Belgian Verstappen could race reasonably well. Now, fast forward to 2015, where a young Verstappen made his debut in Formula 1 at just 17 years old. He did so as a Dutchman, but there was still quite a bit of controversy surrounding his nationality. His mother, Kumpen, indicated at the time that Verstappen only had a Belgian identity card, and with that he would also have registered in Formula 1 under the guidance of his mother. However, obtaining his first points during the Malaysian Grand Prix in Formula 1, his mother once again noted that Verstappen was wrongly characterised as a Dutchman and that he obtained his points as a Belgian driver. The comments of Jos Verstappen. Later that year, it was also Father Jos who got involved in the discussion around Max's nationality. He wrote of the frustrations in De Telegraaf and discussed the situation. Everyone wants a piece of Max at the moment. On the one hand, that is a nice compliment for him. He is doing extremely well in the car, but also outside of it. He comes across well, has a fresh head and remains himself. So I understand that many people are proud. I am, of course. But on some points I do have trouble with it, he admitted, brutally honestly. The Dutchman continued. For example, in the eyes of some Belgian media, Max is suddenly a Belgian. I think that is a bit weak. We have been racing for years, but until a few months ago, there was hardly anything written about him in Belgium, and now they claim suddenly that he belongs to them. I absolutely do not see it that way myself, Jos said at the time. For Verstappen Sr., it was therefore loud and clear. Max will race his career under the red, white and blue of the Netherlands. The situation is that Max has both nationalities because I and Sophie were married at the time when he was born. But since he races under a Dutch licence, he is slightly more Dutch than Belgian. That's how he feels. Belgian has to play football, he is for orange. And if he is 18 and has to choose, it will be for Dutch nationality. The choice of Max Verstappen. And so it happened. Later that year, at the age of 18, Max was given the opportunity to determine which flag he wanted to drive under in Formula 1 races. For him, there was no doubt the reigning world champion wanted to achieve his victories under the Dutch flag. Verstappen, who largely grew up in Maaseik on the Dutch border, also explained at the time, I actually only lived in Belgium to sleep, but during the day I went to the Netherlands and I also had my friends there. I was raised as a Dutchman, and that's how I feel. Verstappen therefore chose based on his feelings for the Dutch flag, and that choice has not done him any harm in his further career. The 24-year-old driver has managed to unleash a real Verstappen madness amongst the fanatical Dutch supporters, and the Orange Army has already become indispensable in the stands around the world. In addition, due to his success, the Grand Prix of the Netherlands in Zandvoort has also returned to the calendar. He is, without a doubt, a Dutchman that the country can be proud of, and he can be proud of being a Dutchman. So Max Verstappen's impact on the world of F1 actually reaches across borders. Can you imagine if the Orange Army didn't have his back? If Max had chosen to be Belgian instead, racing under their flag, would there be the same atmosphere around Grand Prix circuits compared to those that are decked out in all orange on the weekends? Let us know in the comments section below your thoughts on this issue. Not that it's really an issue anymore. And of course, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the content we produce here at GP Fans.